Hello, hockey fans, and welcome back to another episode of Draft Day Disaster, the series where we look back at a previous NHL entry draft, but instead of choosing the most successful NHL players, we select the worst first round possible. In today's episode, we are going to be jumping forward an entire decade from our previous episode, as we turn the 2013 NHL Entry Draft into a draft day disaster. For those of you who have either never watched this series before, have forgotten how this all works, or never understood it to begin with, I shall be redrafting the first round of the 2013 NHL Entry Draft using players selected in the first two rounds of the actual draft, who went on to have the shortest, the most disappointing, or completely non-existent careers in the NHL. Instead of starting with the first overall pick and counting up like the actual draft does, we shall begin with the 30th overall pick, where the best player of this bad bunch shall be selected, and count down until we reach the first overall pick and the worst player on this list. So without further ado, let's turn the 2013 NHL Entry Draft into a draft day disaster. With the 30th pick in the draft, instead of actually drafting Ryan Hartman, the Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks select Marko DANO. Originally selected 27th overall by the Columbus Blue Jackets, Marko DANO has suited up in 141 NHL games over 6 seasons, split between 4 different NHL teams, and has scored 16 goals and 45 points for his efforts. Though he returned to the franchise that drafted him this past off-season, and has played in 3 games for the Blue Jackets this year, the Slovakian forward currently resides with Columbus's AHL affiliate, the Cleveland Monsters, where he has scored 13 points in 29 games. I know it's hard to believe, but yes, a guy that is now scoring at a point every other game pace in the minors has had the best NHL career so far on this list. Make sure you buckle up, folks. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. With the 29th selection in the draft, instead of actually choosing Jason Dickinson, the Dallas Stars draft Madison BOWEY. Originally picked 53rd overall by the Washington Capitals, Madison BOWEY has suited up in 133 NHL games over 3 seasons, split between the Capitals and the Detroit Red Wings, where he has scored 4 goals and 34 points. Unlike DANO, this Canadian defenseman is still a member of Detroit's roster and continues to suit up in the NHL to this day, so provided he spends another year or 2 in the bigs, I don't see why he couldn't surpass DANO's stats and take the top spot on this draft to forget. However, this list is based on the numbers as they stand as of right now, so BOWEY is exactly where he should be. Oh, and did I mention that BOWEY was a Stanley Cup champion with Washington in 2018? If I'm not mistaken, that makes him the first Cup champ we've ever had in this series. So congrats, BOWEY! I mean, you're still on this list, but congrats nonetheless. With the 28th choice in the draft, instead of actually drafting Morgan Klimchuk, the Calgary Flames pick Zach Sanford. Originally selected 61st overall by the Washington Capitals, Zach Sanford has taken to the ice in 129 NHL games over 4 seasons, split between the Capitals and the St. Louis Blues, where he has notched 15 goals and 38 points. Similarly to BOWEY, Sanford is still playing in the NHL to this day, with a comfortable spot in the Blues' bottom 6. And also, just like BOWEY, Sanford has his own Stanley Cup ring from the Blues Cup win this past season, so things seem to be working out just fine for him. What's that? You think since there's been 2 Cup winners in a row that things are going to start to get better? Oh, how wrong you are. With the 27th pick in the draft, instead of actually choosing Marko DANO, the Columbus Blue Jackets select Nick Patan. Originally drafted 43rd overall by the Winnipeg Jets, Nic Petan has played in 129 NHL games over 5 seasons with the Jets and the Toronto Maple Leafs, where he has scored 6 goals and 27 points. Though he has played in 16 games with the Leafs this season, Petan currently resides in the AHL, where he plays for the Leafs minor league affiliate, the Toronto Marlies, and has scored 15 points in 11 games. So, will Petan get another call up to the bigs in the near future? I think so. Will he stay up there for good this time? I'm not so sure. Feel free to prove me wrong though, Petan. With the 26th selection in the draft, instead of actually drafting Shea Theodore, the Anaheim Ducks pick, Steven Santini! Originally chosen 42nd overall by the New Jersey Devils, Steven Santini has suited up in 116 NHL games over 5 seasons with the Devils and the Nashville Predators, where he has potted 5 goals and 21 points. Despite getting a 2-game stint with Nashville earlier this season, the American defenseman currently plays for the Predators' AHL affiliate, the Milwaukee Admirals, and has scored 8 points in 33 games. As a defensive defenseman, Santini is known for his skills in his own zone rather than his point totals, but with Nashville's pretty rock-solid decor, it's probably going to take a trade, a couple of injuries, or even a miracle for Santini to get a look in anytime soon. With the 25th choice in the draft, instead of actually selecting Michael McCarron, the Montreal Canadiens pick Remi Elie. Originally drafted 40th overall by the Dallas Stars, Remi Elie played in 106 NHL games over 3 seasons with the Stars and the Buffalo Sabres, where he scored 7 goals and 22 points. Despite being signed to a 2-way contract with Buffalo this year, Elie hasn't earned a call-up to the Sabres roster so far this season, instead playing for their AHL affiliate, the Rochester Americans, and scoring 7 points in 11 games. Given his numbers, I think it's possible for the Canadian winger to make another appearance in the NHL. He just needs to keep scoring points in the minors and pray to the hockey gods to take care of the rest. With the 24th pick in the draft, instead of actually drafting Hunter Shinkaruk, the Vancouver Canucks select Michael McCarron. Originally chosen 25th overall by the Montreal Canadiens, Michael McCarron has taken to the ice in 69 NHL games over 3 seasons, all with the Habs, and scored 2 goals and 8 points for his efforts. The American forward currently serves as the alternate captain of the Habs AHL affiliate, the Laval Rocket, and hasn't been called up to the bigs in 2 seasons. However, he continues to put up decent numbers in the minors, as he has scored 14 points in 29 games this season. So, has his opportunity to become a full-time NHL player passed him by? Probably. I mean, he's not exactly lighting up the A now, is he? With the 23rd selection in the draft, instead of actually choosing Andrei Burakovsky, the Washington Capitals draft Carl Dahlstrom. Originally picked 51st overall by the Chicago Blackhawks, Carl Dahlstrom has played in 63 NHL games over 3 seasons with the Blackhawks and the Winnipeg Jets, where he has scored 0 goals and 9 points. Despite his lack of production, Dahlstrom is the 3rd and final player on this list to still be playing in the NHL to this day, as he currently plays for Winnipeg and has gone scoreless in 14 games. Not exactly a point-scoring machine, but he's clearly found his place on an NHL roster. I'm sure most of the players on this list wish they could say the same. With the 22nd choice in the draft, instead of actually drafting Emile Poirier, the Calgary Flames select Justin Bailey. Originally picked 52nd overall by the Buffalo Sabres, Justin Bailey has suited up in 63 NHL games over 4 seasons with the Sabres and the Philadelphia Flyers, and has notched 5 goals and 9 points for his efforts. The American forward is currently in his first year with the Utica Comets of the AHL and has scored 23 points in 35 games this season. Sure, he's not leading the league in scoring anytime soon, but his serviceable numbers could earn him a call-up to the Vancouver Canucks if injuries start to pile up. He's certainly putting up better numbers than most players on this list, that's for sure. With the 21st pick in the draft, instead of actually choosing Frédéric Gauthier, the Toronto Maple Leafs draft Ian McCoshen. Originally selected 31st overall by the Florida Panthers, Ian McCoshen has played in 60 NHL games over 3 seasons, all with the Panthers, scoring 4 goals and 7 points during his time in the Bigs. The American defenseman began the current season with the Springfield Thunderbirds of the AHL, before being traded by Florida to the Chicago Blackhawks, where he was immediately assigned to their AHL affiliate, the Rockford IceHogs, and has scored 5 points in his 27 games with his new team. However, with a not so impressive -10 in the plus-minus column, I don't think McCoshen will be joining Chicago's roster anytime soon. With the 20th selection in the draft, instead of actually picking Anthony Mantha, the Detroit Red Wings draft Gustav OLOFSSON. Originally chosen 46th overall by the Minnesota Wild, Gustav OLOFSSON has suited up in 59 NHL games over 4 seasons with the Wild and the Montreal Canadiens, where he has scored 0 goals and 11 points. Though he has played in 3 games with the Habs earlier this season, the Swedish defenseman currently plays for their AHL affiliate, the Laval Rocket, and has scored 10 points in 33 games. Considering he played just 2 games during the entire 18-19 season, OLOFSSON seems to have gotten healthy again and his career back on track. So whether he makes a return to the league or not, at least he's still playing. With the 19th choice in the draft, instead of actually drafting Kirby Reichel, the Columbus Blue Jackets select Valentin Zykov. Originally picked 37th overall by the LA Kings, Valentin Zykov has played in 55 NHL games over 5 seasons, split between the Carolina Hurricanes, the Edmonton Oilers, and the Vegas Golden Knights, where he has scored 7 goals and 17 points. Though he currently plays for Vegas's AHL affiliate, the Chicago Wolves, the Russian winger has played more games this season with the Vegas Golden Knights, and has scored 4 points in 15 games. So it's clear that Zykov has become Vegas's first man up whenever they need one. With some increased production, Zykov could see himself on Vegas's roster more permanently. But until then, he'll just have to get used to being called up and sent right back down at least once a week, right, Knights fans? With the 18th pick in the draft, instead of actually choosing MARKO Müller, the San Jose Sharks select Chris BIGRAS. Originally drafted 32nd overall by the Colorado Avalanche, Chris BIGRAS has suited up in 46 NHL games over 2 seasons, all with the Avalanche, scoring a goal and 4 points. The Canadian defenseman currently plays for the Lehigh Valley Phantoms of the AHL, where he has scored 7 points in 19 games. However, BIGRAS hasn't received a call-up to the NHL in the past 2 years, and didn't exactly make waves when he was up there. So I think it's fair to say his chances of making an appearance in the league again are pretty slim. With the 17th selection in the draft, instead of actually picking Curtis Lazar, the Ottawa Senators draft Kirby Reichel. Originally chosen 19th overall by the Columbus Blue Jackets, Kirby Reichel played in 43 NHL games over 4 seasons with the Blue Jackets, the Montreal Canadiens, and the Calgary Flames, where he potted 3 goals and 14 points for his efforts. After spending nearly the entirety of last season in the minors, Reichel is the first player on this list to try his luck overseas, as he signed with Neftekhimik of the KHL. But, after going pointless in 7 games, returned to the AHL and joined the Charlotte Checkers, where he has notched just a single assist in 6 games. Not exactly what you're looking for from a top 20 draft pick, is it, folks? With the 16th choice in the draft, instead of actually drafting Nikita Zadorov, the Buffalo Sabres select LAURENT DAUPHIN. Originally picked 39th overall by the Phoenix Coyotes, LAURENT DAUPHIN suited up in 35 NHL games over 4 seasons, all with the Coyotes, and notched 3 goals and 4 points. Following a trade to the Nashville Predators organization last season, the Canadian forward currently plays for their AHL team, the Milwaukee Admirals, and has scored 16 points in 33 games. So he continues to make a name for himself as a decent minor league scorer that just wasn't good enough for the Bigs, him and most of the other players on this list. Oh, we're halfway there, whoa, draft day disaster. With the 15th pick in the draft, instead of actually choosing Ryan Pulock, the New York Islanders select DILLON Heatherington. Originally drafted 50th overall by the Columbus Blue Jackets, DILLON Heatherington has played in 11 NHL games over 2 seasons with the Dallas Stars, scoring just 2 points in that span. The Canadian defenseman is still a member of the Stars organization, as he suits up for their minor league affiliate, the Texas Stars, where he has scored 9 points in 33 games this season. With just 1 year on his current contract, and having seen his numbers take a step back compared to last season, it's unlikely that Heatherington will be spending much longer in Texas, and perhaps the AHL as a whole. Better get your suitcase packed, Dillon, you might be heading overseas. With the 14th selection in the draft, instead of actually drafting Alexander Wenberg, the Columbus Blue Jackets pick Eric Comrie. Originally chosen 59th overall by the Winnipeg Jets, Eric Comrie has suited up in 8 NHL games over 4 seasons with the Jets and the Detroit Red Wings, and has posted a 2-5-0 record, a 4.23 career goals against average, and a .868 career save percentage. Though he has suited up in 3 of his 8 NHL games this season with Detroit, the Canadian goaltender has been reacquired by the Jets, who have played him on their minor league side, the Manitoba Moose, where Comrie has suited up in just 1 game. With stats like those, it's no wonder he hasn't seen much NHL action. I don't know about you, but I don't think he'll be getting a long stretch in the Bigs anytime soon. With the 13th choice in the draft, instead of actually selecting Josh Morrissey, the Winnipeg Jets pick Hunter Shinkaruk. Originally drafted 24th overall by the Vancouver Canucks, Hunter Shinkaruk played in 15 NHL games over 2 seasons, split between the Canucks and the Calgary Flames, where he scored just 2 goals and 4 points. With the majority of his last 4 seasons spent predominantly in the AHL, including a 20-game stint with the Charlotte Checkers this year, Shinkaruk decided to take his talents overseas and join Kunlun Red Star of the KHL. Unfortunately, the Canadian forward hasn't quite found the resurgence he was looking for, as he has gone scoreless in his first 4 games with the team. But he does have 14 penalty minutes, so that's something. Right? With the 12th choice in the draft, instead of actually selecting Max Domi, the Phoenix Coyotes draft Nick Sorensen. Originally picked 45th overall by the Anaheim Ducks, Nick Sorensen suited up in just 5 NHL games, all with the Ducks, during the 16-17 season, where he scored just a single point. Following his brief appearance with the Ducks, and the rest of the year with their minor league affiliate, the San Diego Gulls, Sorensen decided to head back home to his native Sweden, where he currently plays for Rögle BK of the Swedish Hockey League, and has scored 5 points in 15 games. Sometimes home really is where the heart is. With the 11th pick in the draft, instead of actually picking Samuel Morin, the Philadelphia Flyers draft Zach Nastasiuk. Originally selected 48th overall by the Detroit Red Wings, Zach Nastasiuk is the first player on this list to have never played in the NHL, instead suiting up in 140 AHL games over the past 7 seasons, where he has potted 12 goals and 31 points. In fact, Nastasiuk still plays in the AHL to this day, as he is currently a member of the San Antonio Rampage, and has scored 6 points in 33 games this season. Drafting a player that never plays at the NHL level, and even struggles to play at the AHL level, isn't exactly what you want from a second round pick. But he's not nearly as bad as some of the others on this list, just you wait. We've made it to the top 10 players of this draft day disaster, and if you think things are gonna suddenly get better, you are sorely mistaken. Oh, I hope you're ready, folks. I know I am. With the 10th selection in the draft, instead of actually drafting Valeri Nichushkin, the Dallas Stars choose Marc-Olivier Roy. Originally picked 56th overall by the Edmonton Oilers, Marc-Olivier Roy also never made it to the NHL, instead playing in 100 AHL games where he has scored 12 goals and 30 points. Since turning pro, the Canadian centre has spent the past 5 years bouncing between the AHL and the ECHL, and currently suits up in the latter league with the Idaho Steelheads, scoring 34 points in the first 35 games this season. With an almost point-per-game average this year, Roy will no doubt find himself continuing this cycle of league bouncing for at least the next season or so it seems like he has found his role in the hockey world. Hey, it may not be the best, but it's honest work. With the 9th choice in the draft, instead of actually picking Bo Horvat, the Vancouver Canucks draft Linus Arnesson. Originally selected 60th overall by the Boston Bruins, Linus Arnesson failed to make an NHL roster, instead suiting up in 79 AHL games where he scored a goal and 10 points. Following his third year in the AHL with the Providence Bruins in 16-17, the Swedish defenseman decided to return home and take to the ice in the Swedish Hockey League once more, where he currently plays for Färjestad BK and has scored 7 points in 29 games. Who says you can't go home? With the 8th pick in the draft, instead of actually choosing Rasmus Ristolainen, the Buffalo Sabres select Zach Fucale. Originally drafted 36th overall by the Montreal Canadiens, Zach Fucale never took to an NHL crease despite serving as a backup for several games. Instead, Fucale played in 69 AHL games, posting a 28, 32-4 record, a 3.09 career goals against average, and a .9 career save percentage. Though he has played a single game in the A this season, the Canadian goaltender has spent most of the year with the Orlando Solar Bears of the ECHL, and has posted modest numbers in his 17 games with the team, so he may get another chance in the AHL next season if things continue to go well. Hey Habs fans, remember when you guys thought Fucale was your next franchise goaltender? Yeah, me too. With the 7th selection in the draft, instead of actually drafting Darnell Nurse, the Edmonton Oilers pick Philippe DeRosier. Originally chosen 54th overall by the Dallas Stars, Philippe DeRosier never even got to sniff the NHL, let alone sit on the bench as a backup goalie, as he has instead suited up in 59 AHL games over the past 5 seasons. In fact, the Canadian goaltender still plays in the AHL to this day, as a member of the Springfield Thunderbirds, and has put up decent numbers in his 16 games with the team this year, so DeRosier might be sticking around the minors once this season comes to an end. With the 6th choice in the draft, instead of actually selecting Sean Monahan, the Calgary Flames pick Thomas Vannelli. Originally chosen 47th overall by the St. Louis Blues, Thomas Vannelli had a pretty short pro hockey career, as he played in just 19 AHL games, where he scored a goal and 4 points. I use the word had because Vannelli hasn't suited up in any hockey league around the world in the last 2 seasons, with his last action coming with the Tulsa Oilers of the ECHL, where he scored 22 points in 51 games. According to his LinkedIn page, Vannelli now works as a financial advisor in his home state of Minnesota. So if you guys need any assistance with your finances or anything, Vannelli's the one to call, alright? Good, perfect. With the 5th overall pick in the draft, instead of actually drafting Elias Lindholm, the Carolina Hurricanes choose Gabriel Boudreau. Originally drafted 49th overall by the San Jose Sharks, Gabriel Boudreau is the first of 2 players on this list to have never played in either the NHL or the AHL, instead spending the majority of his career in either the QMJHL or the LNAH. In fact, Boudreau is still playing in the LNAH to this day, as he has spent the past 3 seasons with Jean-Pierre Marquis and has scored 6 points in 10 games this season. You know we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel when a second-round pick hasn't played in either of North America's top 2 leagues even once, and we still have 4 picks to go. With the 4th overall selection in the draft, instead of actually picking Seth Jones, the Nashville Predators draft Connor Hurley. Originally chosen 38th overall by the Buffalo Sabres, Connor Hurley is the other player on this list to have never played in either the NHL or the AHL, instead spending several years post-draft with the University of Notre Dame of the NCAA. After not playing hockey at all during the 17-18 season, the American center spent the next year in the ECHL before moving overseas and joining Narvik Hockey of the Norwegian League for the current 1920 season, where he has scored 24 points in 29 games. Not exactly the most conventional route for a second-round draft pick to take, but at least he is still playing hockey and putting up a solid performance in a European league, especially considering he took an entire year out. So fair play to him. Not sure the Buffalo Sabres would agree, but I'm not the Sabres, so fair play to him. With the 3rd overall choice in the draft, instead of actually selecting Jonathan Drouin, the Tampa Bay Lightning pick Emile Poirier. Originally drafted 22nd overall by the Calgary Flames, Emile Poirier did make it to the NHL, unlike the last few players on this list, but only for 8 games, all with the Flames, where he scored just a single point. Following his second stint with Calgary during the 15-16 season, the Canadian winger has spent the past 4 years in the AHL, where he currently plays for the Manitoba Moose and has scored 10 points in 32 games this season. Sure, his career and his numbers haven't been as bad as some of the others on this list, but considering he was the 22nd highest picked player of his draft class and he couldn't even play 10 NHL games, if that's not deserving of a top spot on this list, I don't know what is. Penultimately, with the 2nd overall selection in the draft, instead of actually picking Alexander Barkov, the Florida Panthers draft Samuel Morin. Originally chosen 11th overall by the Philadelphia Flyers, Samuel Morin has suited up in just 9 NHL games over 4 seasons, all with the Flyers, and has failed to score a single point in that span. This season, the Canadian defenseman has played in just a single game with the Flyers and posted a -1 for his efforts. However, he is currently on the long-term injured reserve list, having suffered a second torn ACL in less than 2 years. Ouch. Part of me wanted to place Morin at the top of this list due to him being the highest drafted player with the most disappointing career so far. But given the fact that injuries have been the primary cause of him staying out of the league, I didn't think it would be fair. Has Morin failed to live up to the hype that comes with being an 11th overall pick? Oh, for sure. Is it all his fault though? Not completely. And finally, last and most certainly least, with the first overall pick of this draft day disaster, instead of actually drafting Nathan MacKinnon, the Colorado Avalanche select Morgan Klimchuk. With the shortest and most underwhelming NHL career of any player selected in the first round, Morgan Klimchuk takes the top spot on this list as the most disappointing player of this draft day disaster. Originally selected 28th overall by the Calgary Flames. Wow, Calgary sure drafted some stinkers here, didn't they? At least they got Monahan. Morgan Klimchuk suited up in just a single NHL game with the Calgary Flames during the 17-18 season, and went scoreless in said game. One game. Scott Foster almost played one full game, and he was an accountant. Following his debut in the best league in the world, the Canadian winger has spent the past 2 seasons in the AHL, where he currently serves as the alternate captain of the Belleville Senators, and has scored 10 points in 24 games. So let me get this straight. A first-round pick, someone considered to be one of the best young players of his age group in the entire hockey world, took to the ice in just one NHL game? That is absolutely deserving of the top spot on this list. Hopefully Klimchuk managed to pick up his debut puck or something, because he hasn't exactly won anything else at the NHL level, has he? And that's how you turn the 2013 NHL Entry Draft into a draft day disaster. What do you guys think about this redraft? Is it good, bad, or would you have ranked the players differently? Also, is there another draft year that you would like me to turn upside down? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys think. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, or watch some of my other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. A big thank you to Adam Budziszewski, Chris Gadsby, Connor B, Jordan Whitehead, and Paul Malia, as well as a huge thank you to Max Artis and The Legacy for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.